welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. You know what Christy Mathewson wasn't worried about? SIERA. When you're thinking about Pedro Siriaco, I mean, the only one that can compete is maybe Hannes Wagner's 1908 season. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern.
Like, if we just clip together every time we've talked about him on other people's profiles, we've done a Mickey Cochran episode.
I can't get past Rabbit Marinville. It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio. We're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing very well today. We've had a very long hiatus from the show. We've been finishing up school, and we've been, I guess our last podcast wasn't the traditional one because it was about Les Man. It was our Sabre presentation, which was a very cool thing, but it's good to be back doing what we do best for real this time.
Yeah, and it's I mean, I don't know if it's a good thing, but we are back on the Zoom setup.
It's ARR regular season. We're on Zoom. I'm out here. You're in your room.
Yeah.
It's how it's meant to be.
It is how it's meant to be. That's where like the technical podcast started, was on Zoom because of the whole COVID.
Yeah, there's that whole thing. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah, there was a big pandemic.
Yeah. It was like the first big pandemic in like 100 years.
Yeah. Like you couldn't go like get a haircut for a couple months.
No, that sucked.
Yeah, it was tough. Real tough. But yeah, we're back, first time in a couple weeks. Hope you enjoyed the Les Man episode. I mean, it wasn't like the history series, but it was good. It was interesting to do. Definitely different than what we do, but it still took a lot of time and effort. But yeah, we're back talking about baseball. There's a lot of things we've been missing. One thing that happened pretty recently was a no-hitter. I mean, at this point last year, we were talking about, do no-hitters even matter anymore? We need to get rid of foreign substances because they're causing all these no-hitters. I guess it's working because now there's not 4 no-hitters to talk about. But yeah, our first one of the year.
Sorry, Mets, you don't count.
First individual no-hitter of the year. So I guess now it's 2, but first individual no-hitter of the year, Reid Detmers, who's a rookie.
Very young. He was only drafted in 2020.
Yeah, he was one of the 20 pitchers that the Angels drafted.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that was last year.
Oh no.
Because the draft was only 5 rounds in 2020.
That's true. Yeah, I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
But still, a guy that was drafted in the first round of the 2020 draft. He's only 21, 22?
20. I think he's 21.
Yeah. But anyway, he threw a no-hitter. 2 strikeouts, 1 walk.
He's in his age 22. He's in his age 22 season. He's 22. He's turning 23 in July.
Interesting.
So very young for a guy to throw a no-hitter in the majors, especially like an American-born player.
Right. Yeah. Especially. Yeah. We're like, you have to wait till you're 18 to potentially get put on a put in a major league organization.
And even then, if you get put on one at 18, you're probably going to college.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's exactly, I'm looking at his reference page now, and that's what happened. He got drafted out of high school in the 32nd round and then went to University of Louisville to eventually get drafted in the first round. But yeah, I mean, I think with this one, it's hard to say Reid Detmers threw a no-hitter so much as the Angels like had a no-hitter. That makes sense.
Welcome back to Chris is a bad baseball fan.
I mean, like, I'm also like, it's just a thing where as I value like on base percentage more and batting average less, I care less when no hits are allowed, I guess. I don't know.
I feel like
just
if it's like
happened to be
unless
that.
it's like the John Means no hitter,
Yeah, like the John Means no hitter and like
drop third strike,
the Corbin Burns
almost.
Josh Hader combined one.
That's right. I forgot about that one.
That one was great because that was
There are
like
so many random ones. I completely forgot the Brewers threw a combined no hitter last year.
it was because it
That's
was
right.
just
It was against Cleveland. So they got no hit 3 times
it was a random Saturday
in September.
Saturday
I
in
remember being in my
September.
dorm watching it.
And yeah, Burns threw 14 strikeouts and Hader threw like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And that was pretty wild.
Yeah. Did we even talk about that one?
What?
Did we even talk about that one?
I think we did, but not too long. Because Corbin Burns was already dominating. And it was like, yeah, Corbin Burns just kind of did what he's been doing all year, except he happened to allow no hits this time.
Mm-hmm.
This is also how I know I'm a bad baseball fan. I just automatically go to Baseball Savant and I look at the team expected batting average. The team expected batting average was 228, and I actually listened back to the episode after I ranted a little bit about Tyler Gilbert's no hitter, and that was I think it was 242. So it was kind of close. But I think part of it is like when you have less strikeouts, like every batted ball is going to have a positive, it's going to have an expected batting average above 0. So it's not quite the same. But yeah, I mean, I don't have much video at my disposal right now. But yeah, there were some lineouts, but they weren't very hard hit. And I will say a large percentage of batted balls had a negative launch angle. It was like 44%, which is more than normal.
It's very good, yeah.
But yeah, I mean it was interesting. It wasn't the most dominant no hitter you'll ever see, but it's another thing where it's just like a good story.
Yep.
Like a 22-year-old rookie.
I think I don't know how much truth there is to this, but someone on Twitter said that Detmers had the highest SIERA ever in a no-hitter.
Yeah, I mean,
which is weird because you mentioned there was a lot of negative launch angles, so that would probably indicate a higher, like obviously his strikeout to walk ratio is only 2.
Yeah, but also what I will say is all the ground balls with negative launch angles, those were all the ground balls. So there wasn't like a 5-degree launch angle ground ball.
Yeah.
Like the launch angle I can just literally go here. When you sort by launch angle with Detmers, it goes -28, -27, blah blah blah, -1, 13. And then
I'm looking.
And then there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 between 10 and 25, which are like pretty much line drives. Line drives are like hard fly balls. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see.
What is his pitch mix? Reid Detmers was out there throwing a 4-seam fastball, curveball, changeup, slider, cutter, which the cutter only threw once, but mostly
it was a great cutter.
It was got a swing and miss
100% whiff rate on the cutter that
Yep. 20% called strike and whiff rate on the fastball. 41% on the curve. That was definitely his best pitch of the night, other than that one cutter, of course.
Yep.
Yeah. What an outing. Also, just a side note, like the biggest problem with SIERA I found is that no one actually understands how to explain it.
Yeah.
Like on that tweet that I saw of like, he had the highest SIERA, everyone was like, what is that? And someone would explain it. I'd be like, nope, that's not it. Like I saw that like 3 times. Like it sounds complicated. It's literally just strikeout percent minus walk percent and ground ball percent. Like it's a combination of those two. It's very simple.
Yeah,
And no one like that's like if more people understood that, it would be like, oh, okay, yeah, like it's a decent thing to look at. Like it's I don't think it's the end, like it's the end all be all. I don't think it's the best peripheral out there, but it makes sense why people look at it.
yeah, exactly. And like if you understand FIP, you can definitely easily understand SIERA.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, I mean, and I guess like to put an angle on it, like, it's a no-hitter. It's one game, obviously. The Rays went 0 for 25 on batted balls in play, which I guess is, yeah, would be considered bad luck. If you go back to our stats episode 169, we talk about BABIP and how, you're expected to have like a 300 BABIP, or like between 290 and 300 usually. And, Rays were at 0.000. But yeah,
I'm gonna be
it's
honest. I feel like expected batting average is different. I'm sorry to interrupt, but like expected slugging and expected WOBA, I think means so much less this year.
oh, yeah. That's funny.
You were just going to say that?
I was actually looking at um like the league WOBA versus X WOBA, which ideally that's a flat
It's
zero.
yeah.
But since it's using data from like the past, from the StatCast era, pretty much, the WOBA minus X WOBA is negative 24 points, which is unbelievable.
That's absurd. I mean, it makes sense, but that's absurd.
It's so absurd, yeah.
Like it doesn't have as much value now. It really doesn't.
Because I was looking. What happened was um I was looking at team rankings, like to see how unlucky teams were, and there were only like 3 or 4 teams that were like technically getting lucky.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess they're gonna have to change those statistics. So
Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone, like, I would guess like 75% of the league you could consider unlucky this year,
Yeah.
probably.
It's everyone but the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
They're the only team with a positive change in home run to fly ball ratio over the years of 2021 to 2022.
Yeah, and that's talking offensively, by the way, of course.
Yeah. Defensively, they've been benefiting a lot. Like they gotta change that up somehow, because yeah, like it's gonna be very funny when we do the 2023 players to highlight like preseason. It's like, I like this guy because his expected slugging was 150 points higher than his actual slugging for every single team.
Yeah, he had 20 fly balls, 15 feet short of the fence. Yeah.
His minus 200 like difference between X slugging and slugging was the 13th highest in the league.
Yeah, out of 65 qualifiers. Yeah, so
Do you hear a plane flying over me in the background? Helicopter, actually. There's a very low flying helicopter that just flew by my house, and it was very loud. I don't know how well you heard it, but it was there.
I don't think I heard it. I think I was too much in my own thoughts about Reid Detmers.
Yeah. We haven't even gotten to the cool parts of the game yet.
We haven't, but last thing I'll say on the no-hitter is I think you shouldn't be too concerned about the Rays offense, getting no hit by a rookie. It just seemed to be happenstance, and I wouldn't get crazy high on Reid Detmers. This isn't like, I don't think this is his breakout game. I think his breakout will probably end up happening in a couple years, but like this isn't where it's gonna end up being the start. But he does look like he's improving. Like his just even expected statistics, his expected ERA in a short time in the league last year was 5.62, and now it's 3.81. So that's good.
Yeah,
good for him
on an Angels team that desperately needs it.
Yeah, exactly. He can be a big, he's probably bigger on the Angels than most teams. So anyway, the highlight was the bottom of the 8th.
It was like 11-0 at this point, 10-0 at this point.
10-0. Brett Phillips on the mound. For those unaware, Brett Phillips is an outfielder regularly. He's a two-way
but
player.
he's also a part-time pitcher. Yeah.
He's a two-way player. But he's throwing real slow pitch softball type pitches.
Overhand though.
Anthony Rendon, who up to that point, I should take a look, had I think over 3,700 plate appearances as a righty and 0 as a lefty.
I mean, that's just including the major leagues, like minor leagues, college, probably. I don't think we have his high school stats.
Over 4,500 over 4,500 major league plate appearances as a righty.
Yeah.
0 as a lefty. Goes up as a lefty. And he hits a home run.
And it wasn't a cheapie. It was 411 feet. Like a few years ago, people might remember when the Angels lowered the right field wall, or like they put the home run at like underneath that scoreboard where it used to be just in the seats. It cleared all of it.
Yeah.
It's a home run in any year at Angel Stadium. It's probably a home run in all 30 ballparks too.
Yeah, except maybe like Oracle, but outside of that,
it was right around Triple's alley.
Outside of that, that's going. Mm-hmm. It was that was a great moment.
I like every now and then, like maybe a couple times a year, you'll have a moment, you'll watch something baseball and you're like, am I dreaming or did I just watch that? And I don't think I've ever had a bigger am I dreaming or did I just watch that moment than seeing Anthony Rendon hit a left-handed home run. Like even just seeing him hit left-handed in general, like the only other example I can think of someone randomly going up with the other hand was like D Gordon for that one pitch to honor Jose Fernandez, and then Javi Baez a couple times. But like Anthony Rendon never struck me as the type of guy that would do that, but he did, and he actually hit a home run.
Yeah, Anthony Rendon's just a funny character in general because like based on interviews, it seems like he just does not like to play baseball. I know he does, but like I think he just hates doing media in general. But yeah, he just he's not very enthusiastic with the media. But yeah, and so to see him like a quiet, kind of mild-mannered guy who like you could assume maybe is a little bit old-fashioned, but maybe that's just wrong.
Yeah.
To see him go up lefty, that's pretty funny. And
it was
just see it work out like that.
I don't know if you saw this, but Joe Madden the next day put him in as a switch hitter in the lineup card.
That's very fun.
Listen, if Anthony Rendon, keeps like, I know he's not exactly having the greatest year right now. He has a 663 OPS. But if he gets hot and he reaches the All-Star game, like, what the people are going to want.
Yeah, for sure.
It'd be very funny. Like he did it against Brett Phillips. He just goes up against Corbin Burns as a lefty at Dodger Stadium and somehow just hits one like over the pavilion.
Yeah.
much different competition.
Yeah, for sure. Corbin Burns versus Brett Phillips. Yeah, I thought Rendon was doing a little better, but I guess.
Well, to be fair, like a 663 OPS is like a 120 weighted runs created plus in this day and age.
Yeah, it's literally a 98 OPS plus, which is
so bad. It's so like the league slugging is at its lowest point in like 40 years. It's really bad.
It's crazy, yeah. And he also has a 215 BABIP.
Okay.
So it's mostly me speaking out of optimism for my F14.
I wonder what what's the league, like the league ERA isn't that amazing, is it?
I think it might be upper threes.
Because I'm trying to think, like, like we're looking at a day and age where like a really bad OPS traditionally can still result in a good OPS plus, but does the same account for ERA on the opposite end where it's like a traditionally good ERA ends up being like a 107 ERA plus? Like a
Yeah, a little bit. I don't think to the same degree, but
no,
it's the league average ERA right now is 3.80.
no, that's not that great. That's probably like right around where it was in like the beginning of Rob Manfred's tenure.
And then last year it was 4.26.
Yeah.
However, I will say the season always starts more or less offensive
Yes, but
because
this
of
year is a special case.
it's a special case, but I would imagine the league ERA ends up around 4, and like the league average OPS right now is like in the 670s or something like that.
Yeah.
I imagine it ends up somewhere in the 690s by the end of the year.
That's so crazy because last year it was 728.
Was it? Yeah, was it 720? Yeah,
It
728,
was.
which is kind of where I think that's where it's best.
Yeah. Yeah, that is where it's like low 700s. Like if like there's a very good chance at this point the league OPS ends up at under 700, like that's bad.
Yeah, not great.
That's bad. That's not good for the sport.
Yeah,
Especially if the league slugging is as low as it is.
yeah, like the 2021 is kind of where I would like the offense to be because um and yeah, it's weird that like the baseballs have changed like pretty clearly. They've definitely changed.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know why they won't use the 2021 ones. The 2019 ones I could not do because I saw too many just
Yeah.
inside out swings that were inside out broken bad swings that were just landing
might
10 rows deep.
this might sound weird, but I feel like it's not even a good thing that strikeouts are down too. Because like I know that a lot of people don't like the fact that there's so many strikeouts, and that's fair. But such a simple solution to that, and it's think of strikeouts as a pitcher stat.
Right. And I mean, like Shohei Ohtani wouldn't be as enticing a player to watch if he had 8 strikeouts per 9.
Mhm. He doesn't. He has
So-
like 16, but
Yeah, like
he's like one of the league leaders in strikeouts per 9. But
Well,
like
like,
so many
that's-
guys are, yeah, like the league strikeout per 9 is definitely. Let me check where it is this year in relation to last year.
it would be funny though if like Shohei Ohtani, the hitter, and Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher, was much different. Like the hitter is hitting like 40 home runs a year, but the pitcher is like Kyle Hendricks.
Yeah, yeah.
He's just
It's like
not
6
very
strikeouts per 9, like
Yeah.
2.09 walks per 9, like 2.73 home. Actually, not that's not 2.73, like 2.0 home runs per 9.
Yeah, just like kind of a middle of the road pitcher who
Yeah.
at points is very good.
Somehow, like even with the velocity being at it is, like he throws 100 with like a ridiculous splitter, a slider, and he just isn't getting swing and miss for whatever reason.
Yeah, he's just a crafty righty. Yeah. So yeah, that would be pretty funny.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, that's like a very what makes pitchers marketable is like how dominant they can be.
Yeah, like
You know.
it's fun watching Max Scherzer go out there and strike out 12 guys.
Yeah.
Like you can complain about how many strikeouts there are, but go watch a pitcher just own an entire lineup, and it's fun.
Yeah, like I was on this guy's train for a couple of years, but no one was lining up to see Hyunjin Ryu pitch.
Yeah,
He was a Cy Young finalist 2 years in a row, and I will say he was good when he was good. It's not quite the same anymore. But yeah, no one was lining up to see Hyunjin Ryu pitch, no matter how low his ERA was going to be. And that's just what it is. So like,
yeah,
like a lot of social, like look at a guy like Pitching Ninja. Like there's a reason why he has such a big following. It's not because of great location and weak contact. It's because of strikeouts. And that's speaking as
Yeah.
someone who really
like,
appreciates
if
great
it
location.
is, yeah, and if it is great location, it's also great velocity too.
Yeah.
Like here's Ryan Helsley throwing 103 right on the corner and getting a backwards K.
Yeah, and this is speaking as someone who kind of favors the lower velocity, like
I was gonna say, Chris,
pitch.
who's your favorite pitcher of all time?
It's Greg Maddux.
Yeah.
Greg Maddux. So yeah, and I favor that, but I understand that it's not really enticing to everybody. Way more people like to see Randy Johnson and Pedro Martinez pitch, although they are control guys according to MLB Network.
Yeah. Yeah. The league K per nine is at 8.6. Last year it was at 8.9. It's at its lowest point since 2018, which is not that far off, but like, I don't know. It just feels like some of the dominant strikeout guys aren't being dominant strikeout guys. Also, the league BABIP is at its lowest point since at least 2010, probably more.
Um, wait, what's the league BABIP at that?
282.
Yeah, that's pretty low because in our stats,
290s.
yeah, in our stats episode, I was saying in the last 14 years, it's been between 292 and 300, so that's pretty far off.
Mm.
But what was I gonna say? With I had a good point.
I believe you.
Thank you. Trying to come back to it. What were we talking about before? We're talking about Maddox. We're talking about Randy Johnson.
The control and MLB Network and the league stats, the league BABIP being down.
League stats. Okay, I think
Slugging.
something about league strikeouts being down. I know it's a tired subject, but I imagine lack of foreign substances.
Yes, yes.
Because
that's definitely true.
We never really like focused on that as a change last year. Like it might have gone down a little bit after the memo came out. I wasn't keeping track.
Well, the spin rates magically went up again in like September.
Yeah, the enforcement is not nearly the same as it was back in June of last year.
Like somehow the league spin rate just magically went up to where it was in like April and May back in September when everyone stopped paying attention to spin rates.
Yeah.
But that's such a perfect time for them to do it. It's like some guys have just gone to football. Some guys probably stopped looking in August because it's like, okay, we've seen a 2-month sample without foreign substances. We've seen the results. And in September, Rob was like, all right, bring it back.
Yeah.
Bring back the spider tack.
Umpires, look away. Look away.
Yeah, umpires, if you feel something, don't say it.
Yeah, it's probably sunscreen.
I mean, did anyone get ejected for foreign substances after Hector Santiago?
I don't think so.
Because he got suspended on like June 22.
He was Hector Santiago, the most wanted man in baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hector Santiago. I was surprised he was still in the league when I heard about that.
That was my way of knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the headline was like Hector Santiago like ejected from game for foreign substances, and I was like, oh my god, Hector Santiago still pitching.
Yeah, he was going to be in our draft. Not for that.
Remember that guy from like the 2015 Angels?
Yeah. So the league has undergone some changes. I think the strikeout numbers, it might be the ball a little bit, but like I think foreign substances probably have a little bit lack of foreign substances have a little bit to do with that.
Yes.
And then it's funny, like once you know it, maybe you look for it a little too much, but you just see a fly ball and it's like that's an out.
Yep.
Just seems like it every time. So all right, should we get into some of the struggling teams?
Let's do it.
I'll start with our hometown team, the Boston Red Sox, because I have their span pulled up on my Fangraphs here. But yeah, they have lost. Yeah, they were 7-7, so that means they've lost 13 of their last 17. They're 11-20, last in the AL East. pretty bad, especially considering, last year they were a playoff team and they made it pretty far into the playoffs, won technically 2 rounds until they lost in the ALCS. But now, 11-20, they've really suffered from the deadening of the ball because their home run to fly ball ratio is pretty awful. Since their span of going 4-13 has started, they have a 77 team weighted runs created plus. And I probably should look at some of their like high leverage numbers or runners in scoring position numbers because I think that's also pretty wretched.
Everything about their offense is wretched. The 7, 8, 9 hitters have a 49 weighted runs created plus, and I believe 2 home runs, and that's the lowest in baseball by far.
Right. It's pretty awful. As Fangraphs is asking me to become a member again. It's a bold strategy by Fangraphs. I feel like they just constantly have that
Yeah,
ad
they do.
to become a member just so you can become a member just to not
Yep.
get that ad anymore.
Yeah.
But as I'm looking for some more stats on the Red Sox, any particular thoughts, takeaways?
I mean, it's the offense, really. Also, the bullpen has been brutal ever since they had to move Garrett Whitlock out of the closer role. It's very weird because Whitlock has pitched well enough as a starter to where it's hard to imagine you want to take him out. But also, like, the bullpen clearly needs him right now.
Yeah, it is weird because, like, we're guys that look at, wins above replacement and things like that.
Mhm.
Whitlock is going to get more wins above replacement as a starter because, like, he has similar production as a starter to what he had as a reliever. It's not a Daniel Bard situation,
Yeah.
which we're happy about. But yeah, it's like, he might be more valuable getting 70, 80 innings in the late innings as opposed to like 130 innings as a starter.
Mhm.
So like, and the starting staff outside of Whitlock is doing all right. The bullpen isn't. So
Yeah. It's the ninth inning too. Like every inning seems to be fine out of the bullpen. Like the bullpen ERA overall isn't horrible, but for whatever reason, the ninth inning is just different.
yeah, and if it was the first half of last year when the bullpen was definitely overperforming, like I think before like the trade deadline, their bullpen ERA was like 8th, which was crazy considering their roster. But like if it was at this point last year where Barnes was one of the most dominant closers out there at the time, and then Ottavino was doing well, and there were a couple other guys that were contributing, then yeah, I would love to have Whitlock as another starter in there, but it's not like that. Whitlock is clearly like, he's not just a great reliever, he's the only great reliever on the Red Sox. So, I'm less hesitant to put him back in that role and let Eovaldi, Pavetta, Hill, Walker, and Houck try and figure it out.
I believe the Red Sox have almost double the amount of blown saves as the second highest team.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's whoever you put out there, they just aren't getting the job done right now. And like especially like going back to Whitlock on a team that lacks rotation depth right now, like Michael Walker's hurt, Rich Hill I believe is hurt, Chris Sale is of course hurt. Like you need people to fill those roles, and I think that also is another reason why he stayed in the rotation. Like it's it's him, Eovaldi, Houck for the time being. Like they don't really have a lot right now.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of depth, but they have some guys that are overperforming, like
Mm-hmm.
like Hill
Like
and
Michael
Walker.
Walker. Michael Walker has like a 145 BABIP against right now.
He's the definition of what we call a volcano, which
The Red Sox, and they've not announced any starters for this weekend series against the Rangers. So I don't really know what's going on right now there. But the problem is the offense. Like they don't hit with runners in scoring position. They I don't know. They're not hitting the ball well. It's kind of just as simple as that.
Yeah, individually, Trevor Story, he's actually been picking it up, but in this 17 game span where they've been doing especially bad, Trevor Story has a 595 OPS and 31.9% strikeout rate. Jackie Bradley Jr. 473 OPS, but I mean, it's kind of been the standard bearer for him since the start of last year.
He has some great home road splits though.
He does. It's pretty wild.
He has like a 170 OPS plus at Fenway and like a -1 in the road. Their team, like the team as a whole, has also just been very destroyed by the deadened ball.
Yeah,
like I would imagine they have one of the worst differences between slugging and X slugging.
Yeah, and
like if you look at Alex Verdugo, he's a specific example.
Yeah, I was literally about to say his name. Like his highlight reel, there's like a montage of like 10 different times you could say, like, you know, that could have been off the wall or over the fence last year. Yeah. But yeah, to go over some more individual statistics in the Red Sox last 17 games, Bobby Dahlbeck, 422 OPS. He's someone who, like, optimism really grew about him in the last 2 months of the season last year. Hasn't carried over. Also a 37.2% strikeout rate. And then Kike Hernandez, he has a 379 OPS for a 9 weighted runs created plus in the Red Sox last 17 games. Verdugo has a 351 OPS in this span, but he's one of the unluckiest hitters in baseball. Kike might be up there too. I haven't looked at his expected statistics, but he has a 170 BABIP in the 17 game span. And yeah, I should look at maybe we'll pause it here, but I am curious about their runners in scoring position numbers.
Yeah, the Red Sox are 26th in the league in slugging, and they're like middle of the pack, slightly towards the top, I think, in expected slugging.
Yeah, that's
1,
tough.
2, 3, 12, 13. 15. They are exactly 15th in expected slugging and 26th in slugging. They also have the highest, like the worst change in home run to fly ball ratio between the years, and I know that it's not entirely their fault. But it's bad. Their home run to fly ball ratio last year was 19.9, which was it was like middle of the road. It was 13th, so it's not like they were world beaters there. But this year it is at 8.7%, which is 28th in baseball, and that's minus 11.2%, which is by far the lowest in the league.
Yeah. And then with runners in scoring position, the Red Sox in their last 17 games are hitting 199 with a 570 OPS with runners in scoring position. Those are both bottom 5 in that span, which I honestly expected it to be a little worse, at least ranking wise. But yeah, high leverage situations has not been their friend. And then last thing I'll look at is where their bullpen is at. And I don't know if the bullpen as a whole, it's just like when they need them, they just don't deliver. That's the problem.
Yep.
So
yeah, their bullpen in like late and close games is probably bad.
Yeah, for sure. Like in a 6-run ball game in the 5th inning, they're dynamite. But but when
even like in the 8th inning of a 1-run game, they're pretty good. 9th inning of a 1-run game, no chance.
Yeah. just can't do it.
Wild.
Austin. Oh yeah, in their last 17 games, the Red Sox are last in reliever F WAR. So seems to be all situations they're not doing very good. And they do not have the worst ERA. They have the 6th worst ERA, so that it must be
Still.
must be a FIP thing. They must have the worst FIP.
Yep.
Yeah, that they have the second worst FIP. I guess you could say tied because both them and Baltimore have a 4.98 FIP since April 23rd, which is when this 4-13 stretch started. So yeah. So in one sense, if you told us that, if you told us the Red Sox were going to have a 4-13 stretch, you'd be like, you asked us like, what is going to be the cause of that? We wouldn't have said offense, but we would have predicted, bullpen is going to be a factor.
I would have definitely said starting pitching above anything else, and that's been their biggest strong point.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird how that's happened.
Yeah. Which is the thing that worries me is that the Red Sox offense and bullpen is going to turn it around, but then the starting pitching is going to be more what we expected, and it's going to be tough for some of them to get outs.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what worries me most is like they're wasting the overperformance of their starting pitching.
Yep.
Because it's not going to be like this. It's not going to be like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Red Sox, and we have some other teams to get to. Actually, maybe we should go more positive. Maybe not for us, but I'm interested in talking about the Yankees.
Yes. Ever since the fan base fired Aaron Boone for the 16th time in the last 2 years, the Yankees have won 13 of their last 15 games against very good opponents for a lot of it. Like they beat the Blue Jays twice. They won a series against them recently.
Yeah, I think 15 of their last 17 too.
Yeah, probably.
Both are true because I know they were I was looking last night and they were 7-6, and now they're 22-8. So just do the subtraction, and
Yep.
they're 15-2.
Yep.
And I mean, that's kind of and I think with that, like the guys you would expect to be leading the way are leading the way. Aaron Judge is phenomenal.
Shout out to Aaron Judge. Like he put the biggest bet ever on himself, and it's paying off so far.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
He had, I think it was, what was it, like 9 years, 230 million as the contract offer or something like that for a 30-year-old.
I think he, according to sources, which is Twitter.
Yeah.
It was, I believe it was, what's 10 years, 360 million.
That's what he was asking for.
Well, that's what,
The Yankees offer was, I believe, 9,233. I could be wrong on that, but I believe it was in that ballpark. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Which, I mean, for a 30-year-old, 9,233 is hard to turn down.
That's unbelievable that he turned it down. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, he placed a massive bet on himself. Like, I don't even think I can blame the Yankees for not extending him. If that's what he was. If like, that's insane.
Maybe the average annual value was a little low, but like,
well, he said that he wanted to be the highest paid player in Yankees history, which means they would have to have surpassed A-Rod's deal in terms of average annual value, and he got paid $35 million a year, so he wanted 36. Hence why he asked for 10,360.
It's funny to,
which, given like his injury history and the fact that he is over the age of 30, like if any GM signs him to that deal, good for Aaron Judge.
And good for him. And also it's funny to be like, I want to be the highest paid player in Yankees history, higher than A-Rod, and look how A-Rod's contracts work for you guys.
Yeah, I want to be paid higher than Babe Ruth.
But like A-Rod got paid 270 million, and like he was good, and that was from 08 to 17, and they
did at least win a World Series with him.
Yeah, but he was good for like maybe the first 4 years of that contract, and then it was clearly not worth it from that point forward. But yeah, since April 24th, which is when I believe this span of this 15-2 stretch started, Aaron Judge has a 1080 OPS, which is extremely valuable, 221 weighted runs created plus in 61 plate appearances. Giancarlo Stanton, 1008 OPS, 191 weighted runs created plus. Those are the guys you need to produce, and they're producing. Anthony Rizzo, he's doing extremely well. 160 weighted runs created plus. Gleyber Torres is actually doing pretty well. 139 weighted runs created plus, and DJ LeMahieu at a 135. And along with that, and I think team-wise overall, they're leading in weighted runs created plus in this span. And then pitching-wise, they're doing pretty phenomenal as well. I know Garrett Cole has a 0.47 ERA in his last 3 starts. So he's been, and that's with like a 1.78 FIP, unless that changed. Yeah, Jamison Tyon in this span, 3 starts, 2.81 ERA, 2.37 FIP. Nestor Cortez has been killing it. He has a 1.65 ERA in this span, and his season ERA is actually lower. And then Jordan Montgomery, 3.24 ERA. And I think overall their pitching in this span, they're like 3rd or 4th in ERA, but their offense has definitely been carrying them. And yeah, I guess speaking as someone who was kind of low on the Yankees this year, I had them in 4th place. Yeah, it's been surprising, but if you asked me what would lead the Yankees to be being 22-8, it would be, Judge, Stanton, and Cole just being their best selves, and that's what's happening.
Exactly.
Any other takeaways from the Yankees?
Nestor Cortez, I don't know how much you mentioned him, but that's been he was very good last year as well, but you would have thought he would have either taken a minor step back or kind of stayed the same, but he's been probably their best pitcher. Better than Garrett Cole, better than Severino, Tyon, Montgomery. Like, that's been their ace.
Yeah, Nestor Cortez, he's the American League's ERA leader right now.
Obviously, he's probably also the strikeout per 9 leader.
He's
somewhere near it.
He has 11.8 strikeouts per 9. I bet if I could just go into the Baseball Reference leaders, awards, and honors.
I'm just looking on Fangraphs.
He's 4th in the AL in
and he's 5th in Major League Baseball. Actually, Fangraphs has him being 3rd in the AL. The rankings among qualifiers, maybe Baseball Reference has Shohei Ohtani, who doesn't qualify. The rankings in strikeouts per 9, Carlos Rodon is leading, Shane McClanahan is 2nd, Dylan Cease is 3rd, Max Scherzer is 4th, Nestor Cortez is, of course, 5th. Corbin Burns, Garrett Cole, Kevin Gausman, Aaron Nola, Kyle Wright, rounding up the top 10. Also, those are the only 10 qualifying starters with 10 strikeouts per 9.
Right. Yeah. And this is a year where strikeouts have gone down a little bit. So, so yeah, shout out to all them doing their thing.
It's very fun that Kevin Gausman still has a strikeout to walk ratio of 46.
That is fun.
Yeah.
By the way, his first 5 starts were the only 5-game span in baseball history with 40 plus strikeouts, no walks, and no home runs allowed.
Yep.
That was pretty wild. I was looking at that stat during the game where he got to 40 strikeouts, and like he was at like 30 in the season, and I was like, you got to get 2 more, otherwise the stat is not going to be as good. And then he got to 40. But Yankees are doing spectacular, which is a little bit of a surprise, even though we knew they were going to be pretty good, but not this good so far. And then back to some struggling teams. I guess it would be with the two remaining teams we've yet to talk about, they're teams where we expected them to definitely take a step up this year, and they just haven't so far.
Yeah.
It's the Tigers and the Mariners. Where do we
We'll
want
talk
to
about
start?
let's talk about the Tigers first. They are currently 9 and like 22 or something like that.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah. Tigers are 9 and 22. They've lost 14 of their last 17 games. It's been a miserable road for them. I think they have the exact same start through 30 games or whatever it was as they did last year. I remember May 8th was their turnaround date, and the season obviously started a little later this year. So hopefully that turnaround date, if the season were to go like last year, is coming. But I mean, I feel like at this point they've dug themselves a hole that they're probably not getting out of. The AL is just very strong overall. Maybe not the Central, but the rest of the league, even with the 3 wild cards, it's hard to imagine that Detroit's gonna go anywhere this year. To talk about how bad it's been, so Detroit has a 301 slugging percentage as a team. That's the worst in the majors. And it doesn't help that they play in a very pitcher-friendly ballpark in a year with the league-wide offense going down the way it has been. It makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
And just to give you an idea, so 301 slugging. However, they have the sixth lowest highest difference between slugging and X slugging on the unlucky side. So they've been very unlucky. Their X slugging is 28th in baseball.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is like their slugging is bad, but their X slugging is like worse.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty wild. Yeah, they've gone 3 and 15, if my math is correct. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they've lost 15 out of 18, which is bad. And in that span, they have a 64 weighted runs created plus, or actually, what sucks is, so they've lost 15 out of 18, but one of those losses came on, the first of those losses came on a day where they won in a double header. So if I go back to the stats,
I know, I noticed that too.
So
I think they've lost 15 of their last 17 actually, or 18.
Yeah, I think they've lost 15 of their last 18, but in their, so that's a 3 and 15 stretch, but in their 3 and 14 stretch where I can find the stats to isolate how bad they've been. Detroit's weighted runs created plus is last. It's 64, which is, especially like, I can't imagine what that OPS is, because like obviously the standards for weighted runs created plus are much lower now, given the deadening of the baseball and everything.
Yes.
So their OPS is 544 in a 17 game stretch. That's pretty terrible.
Yeah, it's very bad for a whole team.
And the reason why we're concerned about the Tigers, like obviously they have not had a great stretch over the past few years, ever since like Max
2016 was their last competitive year.
Yeah, so the past 5 years it's been bad, but like and they were under 500 last year. However, we always reference like since May 8th, this is the record. But after May 8th last year, they went 68 and 61. They added Eduardo Rodriguez and Javier Baez
and Austin Meadows.
And Austin Meadows, and they called up Spencer Torkelson. And it was like, this might be the Tigers' year. This might be their breakout year. This might be where, especially expanded playoffs, maybe they get into that 6 spot, maybe they get into that 5 spot. And it's been disappointing. It's been disappointing.
Like I said, it feels like they're already out.
We talked about, we were optimistic about them finishing 68 and 61, not because we thought, maybe they could do that in their final 129 games again, but
Yeah.
because like we wanted them to start out with that success. If you start the way they did last year, then it's going to be the same thing. It might be a third place finish.
Yeah.
Where they finish 8 games below 500.
Can we go back to the Red Sox for just one quick second?
Sure.
Okay, I just found a
Reluctantly.
stat that is mind blowing.
Okay.
So on barrels this year, the Red Sox have barreled 65 balls. Those barrels have an expected slugging of 25.55. Do you want to guess what the Red Sox slugging on barrels is?
Oof. 1600.
1571.
1571.
They have a 984 point difference between slugging and X slugging on barrels. They have the worst slugging percentage on barrels in the league. And their expected slugging is also only 29th. But still, my goodness.
So the strategy obviously would be to stop barreling balls because it's not
It doesn't work, clearly.
It doesn't work. You need to hit ground. Like Alex Rodriguez said in the World Series last year.
Yeah,
It's
the guy who
it's
hits
all about ground balls through the hole because you can control that.
Says the guy who hits 696 home runs.
Oh,
do you think
man.
A-Rod goes back and regrets the fact that he hit so many home runs and thus got a massive contract twice?
He burned those $270 million. He was like,
Yeah.
I only deserve, or he thought he earned it based on the singles he had.
Yeah. He's like, I hit 280.
Yeah. Like that's above league average. That was pretty good.
Yeah. And then I mean, early 2000s, like, yeah, that's league average, above it.
Yeah, he thinks the reason he only got like 20% on the Hall of Fame vote was because he only hit 280 or 290 in his career.
Yeah.
It wasn't because of the steroids.
Yeah. It's like, man, if I didn't hit so many home runs,
yeah,
I could have gotten there. I hit 696. David Ortiz only hit 541.
Makes
and
sense.
look where he is.
He deserves it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, anyway, back to the Tigers. Yeah, it's disappointing. Maybe their breakout will happen next year, but unless they have unless they go full 2019 Nationals, which is very hard to do.
They're even past that point. Like, I don't think they'd be lucky to get to 19-31.
They would. That's true.
They'd have to go 10-9 in their next 19 games.
Yeah, exactly. I guess one thing to be optimistic about is Tarek Skubal's actually been looking pretty
Yes,
good.
he's been awesome.
Yeah.
He's gotten the walks down. The strikeouts are still there, which is good even with the the lowered strikeout rates. His strikeout to walk ratio, I believe, let me check. That is 11th in baseball among starters. 5.67.
Right.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Erod, like it's funny because his ERA has gone down, but his ERA plus has gotten worse.
Yeah.
That's just the way of baseball right now.
Mm-hmm.
But his strikeout rate has gone down, and his walk rate has gone up. So that's not great. But yeah, like yeah, it's largely the offense that's been contributing to their downfall.
Yep.
But and the last team we'll get into is the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah. My AL West champions.
Yeah, they're 3-12 in their last 15, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, sounds about right.
So that seems more isolated. Like that doesn't seem like that's going to be a long-term thing at all.
Yeah,
But
I definitely feel more optimistic about them still possibly throwing themselves into the playoff picture than I do with the Tigers, but certainly not what you want to see. They've been very streaky this year. Like they started out bad, but then they were really good, and now they're really bad again.
yeah, it's pretty odd. Like it's hard to get a real gauge on them. At all. Yeah, they were 11-6, so then they've gone 3-12. But yeah, when I was looking at stats, they weren't like team wise, they weren't really last in anything, or I think, but I think it's been more their pitching. But
Yeah, the starting pitching's been tough.
It's been tough, but it's been more of a collective thing. It hasn't been like one guy who stood out as really bad.
Robbie Ray has had a slowish start. I mean, a pretty slow start. It's not like he's terrible, but he hasn't been the ace they signed him for. But he just had his best outing of the year against the Phillies. He had, I believe, 10 strikeouts. I know that the earned runs, like he's a guy that's, I think his ERA is probably higher than his FIP, depending on the strikeouts. Okay, it's slightly higher. It's 4.22 with a 4.15 FIP. 8.65 strikeouts per nine. That's obviously not Robbie Ray numbers. But he did have his best outing, and I think he's going to ultimately turn it around. He had a very similar start to the season last year, where like the strikeout numbers were not really there in April and May, but then they picked themselves up, and he obviously won Cy Young. So I think he'll be fine. I think the team overall will be fine. Logan Gilbert gave up a grand slam yesterday, but he still had his career. Like I think he still tied his career high in strikeouts.
Right. Yeah.
Which is very fun.
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, I'm less worried about out of the teams we've highlighted as bad. I'm least worried about this particular team.
Yeah.
In this span, I guess you could tab it more to pitching. Their ERA is 5th worst in this 3-12 stretch overall. I don't know if that's more from their bullpen or their starters. Could be bullpen.
It's probably a mix of both.
It's not their bullpen. It's their bullpen is 12th worst, which is basically middle of the pack.
Yeah.
And then starters are 4th worst with a 5.23 ERA. And then that makes me want to look individually. Okay, in this 3-12 stretch, I mean, Robbie Ray 4.67, not crazy bad. The only guy that sticks out, unfortunately, is Matt Brash, who we're big fans
of. He's down
of.
in AAA now. They should keep him as a reliever.
Yeah, they should keep him as a reliever because I think his style of pitching actually fits.
Yes,
reliever
like he
more.
has really good stuff. He's the kind of guy that you like. If you're the Mariners, you want people facing him once and being confused as hell the first time you see him, and that's it.
Yeah, because he's also a high walk guy, and as you don't want high walk guys being your starting pitcher because those are going to be shorter outings.
Yep.
It's going to make the bullpen work more. And you don't want a guy who's going to, pitch 4 innings, have, 3-4 walks to start. But yeah, I think he could be a very good reliever. He showed some good signs in his first couple of starts, but and maybe he'll be a starter down the line. But yeah, reliever seems more fit for him
right now
at the current moment at the major league level. All right, so those are our teams, struggling teams. And we are gonna now get into players to highlight. First time in a little bit where we're talking players or subjects that have been overperforming, underperforming. First, we'll start off with our May 12th, 2022 edition of How About That? So who are you looking at for How About That?
We just talked about the Mariners and how they've been struggling, but JP Crawford hasn't been the problem.
Nice.
That's a fact. He's been carrying that team. He's the reason they're not way under 500, like way more under 500, I should say. This entire season, he is slashing 333, 419, 533, 953. His 190 weighted runs created plus is 4th highest in the majors, behind only Mike Trout, Manny Machado, and Jose Ramirez. Those are the only people ahead of him. Those are obviously weighted runs created plus says it, but those are probably the 3 best hitters in baseball this season. His strikeout rate is at a career low at 13.7, and his walk rate is at a full season high at 11.3%. His 157-point increase in slugging percentage between 2021 and 22 is the second highest among the 184 qualifiers between the 2 years. He has also embraced going to the pull side a lot this year. 40% of his batted balls have gone to the right side of the field because he's a pure lefty hitter. And when he puts the ball to the right side, he has a 500 batting average and a 944 slugging, which both rank top 20 among the 231 hitters with at least 50 batted balls. So JP Crawford has been carrying the struggling Mariners all season. When they were good, when they were struggling, JP Crawford's been there the whole time. I think it's cool. I think it's cool to see him take that leap because going into this season, I'd say he was looked at as like a fringe top 15 shortstop. But he's been the best one. He's been arguably the best shortstop in all of baseball this year.
Yeah, very much so. JP Crawford.
How about that?
My how about that? He was, I guess, originally with the hometown team, even though he never played a single game with us or with the Red Sox. But was traded to the Padres, then eventually traded to the Rays. But he's been having, I will say, this is a pretty small sample size, but he's been doing spectacular in it. Manuel Margot, in his last 8 games, he is hitting 519 with a 1522 OPS. In this span, he leads the league in average slugging, OPS, and weighted runs created plus minimum 20 plate appearances. And in this span, he has 29 plate appearances, but he's only struck out once in those 29 plate appearances. So getting a lot more bat to ball action for Manuel Margot. Also in the span, he has a 38.5% line drive rate. League average is around 25%, so that's a pretty excellent mark in these 8 games. And he has a 26.9% hard hit line drive rate, meaning, line drives that go 95 plus miles per hour in exit velocity. And also he has a 15.4% barrel rate. His hard hit line drive rate particularly has been very good. It is 13th out of 279 batters to have 10 plus batted balls since May 2nd, which is about top 5%. Manuel Margot.
How about that?
All right, so now we go from the highs to the lows, where we're talking about players and subjects that have been underperforming in our May 12th, 2022 edition of
Slightly alarming.
Who has been slightly alarming you?
By slightly alarming, I went with another full year sample because we haven't done a lot of these, and this guy, I was hoping by this point he would have picked it up a little bit, but he really hasn't. I'm talking about Whit Merrifield, who is slashing. But keep in mind, this is after homering yesterday. Is slashing 161, 198, 214, 413. Shout out to Springfield, Mass, with the 413 OPS. His slugging percentage OPS and 18 weighted runs created plus are all last among the 171 qualifiers in the big leagues. And coming into this year, Whit Merrifield had never had a fly ball rate reach 30% in a season. This year it's at 32.2%. So he's hitting a lot of fly balls, which when you consider Whit Merrifield is a contact hitter who doesn't hit the ball super hard, it's the deadened ball year, and he plays in Kauffman Stadium, you don't want to be hitting fly balls. That's probably the worst thing you could possibly do. His line drive rate is at a career low. His ground ball rate is at its lowest point since 2018, and his pop-up rate is at its highest point since 2018. So he's not making the right kind of contact, and the results have shown. And not to mention, he has also gone from the 90th percentile of outs above average in 2021 to the 37th percentile this year. So that's obviously hurt his F4 a lot because F4's defense now considers outs above average, and that has not been helping him like it has in the past.
Yeah, Whit Merrifield.
Slightly alarming.
I don't know if I think I told you this, but like, it's hard to imagine another team in recent memory that's handled an asset worse than the Royals have handled Whit Merrifield.
Yeah, you did tell me that because
they should have traded him like 2 or 3 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
And now it's, I could see a scenario where he gets traded for next to nothing and comes back to form. But like I think his time of contributing to the Royals is probably over, as sad as it sounds.
Right. And yeah, like I should look, I will actually go back to like his baseball reference page too.
I remember
See
you
how-
used that as a slightly alarming last year, and we were having the same conversation, and it's only gotten worse.
Right, exactly. And yeah, he's a lot the old school fan, like was able to be a very big fan of him. But yeah, like back in 2018 and 2019, he led the league in hits. 2017 and 2018, he led the league in stolen bases. He was above average offensively, well, above average at the plate, and then definitely above average offensively when you consider the base running in those years. According to Baseball Reference, from 2017 to 2019, he averaged about 4 wins above replacement. If you round up a little bit, it was 3.8. But yeah, like he was in his late 20s, early 30s. So like, he wasn't going to be getting any faster or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But, he and the Royals were never competitive at that point. And yeah, like
it really sucks that he's gone his entire career playing for the non-competitive Royals. Like I'm pretty sure he debuted in 2016.
That's very true, yeah. And he would have fit very well on those
Yep, on that 2015 team. Teams. They could have placed him in right field. That's where they had Alex Rios. That would have completed that lineup completely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, tough to see. My slightly alarming is also a Royal.
Oh wow.
And maybe I hopped onto him just because, like, I don't know, it's kind of funny. Although he seems actually like a good guy, but like we've obviously talked about him being last year he was mega overrated.
Yeah.
Talking about Salvador Perez.
Yep.
In his last 14 games, he is hitting 153 with a 401 OPS. Of the 181 qualifiers since April 26th, Perez's OPS ranks 8th worst. He also has a 30% strikeout rate in this span. Perez has not walked in his last 56 plate appearances and is not homered in his last 70 plate appearances. Also, 29.3% of his batted balls have had a launch angle of 40 degrees or higher. League average in this span is 15.7%, so he's almost double the rate of batted balls with a launch angle of 40 degrees or higher. By the way, I was also looking it up. I don't know if it's exactly this now, but yesterday in that 2 to 3 week span, the league average slugging on batted balls with a launch angle of 40 degrees or higher was about 060. So that's how, it's not good to hit it 40 degrees or higher, especially. No.
It'll be like a 300-foot home run in certain stadiums like Houston, Boston, New York to right field, but like definitely not in Kauffman.
Yeah, definitely not in Kauffman, and definitely not in, in like 90% of fair territory anywhere. And then, so that percentage is 12th highest of the 225 players with 25 plus batted balls in the span. So he's like top 5% of, players getting launch angle of 40 degrees or higher, which, never really results in anything good. So yeah, Salvador Perez, not doing well, 401 OPS in his last 14 games. And he is getting
slightly alarming.
And it's also particularly bad for someone who apparently is like Mike Piazza at the dish and Yadier Molina at behind the plate.
Yeah. MJ Melendez just came up like last week, and it's been very weird. So he's been doing well. He's slashing 313, 389, 375 with a 133 weighted runs created plus in a total of 18 plate appearances. Obviously a very small sample size, but he seems to be the same defensively in a very small sample. He's played like 4.5 games as a catcher because he came in as a pinch hitter once, and his defensive runs above average is negative 1.6.
Yeah, that's hard to do. It's hard to do.
His frame, let me check his advanced defensive metrics. He has -3 defensive runs saved and a -0.8 framing rate.
Yeah, not great.
Which, he's a rookie, but yikes. Do the Royals just not teach that?
Yeah, they're just like, we know they're just waiting. They're just waiting for those automatic strike zones.
They're
Like, we don't have to worry about this. They're coming.
Yeah, whatever. Well, we're not gonna be competitive anyway. Who really cares?
Just wait. They're coming.
Just let our catchers hit.
Yeah,
like 40 home runs in a season.
Yeah.
Whether it's Perez, whether it's Melendez.
Yeah, I just can't wait till like Jacob Stallings signs like a $70 million contract somewhere, and then the automatic strike zone comes in,
and it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
He's
been struggling offensively though. He's borderline. I think he's hurt right now because I haven't seen him in the lineup a lot. He's played. Okay, never mind. He's played 32 games. He's a 58 weighted runs created plus. His defensive runs above average is -2.3 for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah,
I've seen a couple of weird things. Like JP Crawford is usually a great
defender, but he's been tough. Yeah, I conveniently left that out of my how about that. Jacob Stallings led baseball in defensive runs saved last year. He is -1 this year after having 21 net last year. But his framing rate's down as well. It's negative for the first time since 2018, and where he only caught 91 innings. This year he's already caught basically 200.
Yeah. Must be the deadened ball.
Must be the deadened ball. Yeah.
So yeah, that does it for players to highlight. I have somewhere to go at 1.
Okay.
So I think we'll skip for today.
I can you want to just do the series to watch, and I'll just take over and finish wait, you recorded, aren't you? You're recording.
Yeah, I'm the host, so I think that ends it.
Just I did want to quickly go over matchup of the day because there's some good ones.
All right.
So today is Thursday. I did have one picked out for every day. So tonight you have which one did I have? All right, in Yankees White Sox, that series is starting off. You have Luis Gil, who took the world by storm by not allowing an earned run for a while to start his career last year against Dylan Cease.
Yeah.
That's matchup of the night. Tomorrow, on Friday, you have. This is going to take a while to load. This is matchup of the weekend. Corbin Burns versus Pablo Lopez.
Yeah.
That's a pretty easy one.
The ERA, that's the
ERA bowl.
ERA champion from last year versus ERA champion of this year. So
side note, so this is a matchup of the night, but Dakota Hudson's pitching for the Cardinals. If you want a good laugh, go look at his stats for this year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a certified looking at the data and simply laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was this one? Okay, yeah. Saturday matchup of the night comes from Phillies Dodgers. It's Ranger Suarez versus Walker Buehler. And then Sunday, you have, it's got to load. Joe Musgrove versus Kyle Wright.
Yeah, that's interesting.
A lot of good matchups this weekend.
Yeah, there's some good series as well. I think there are like good series for different reasons. I'd say Brewers Marlins, like those are two teams where they excel specifically in starting pitching. So those matchups should be interesting, especially on Friday. Obviously, as you said, Burns versus Lopez. Then Rays Blue Jays. I think that's just going to be competitive all year. I predicted them as the top 2 teams in the AL East, but I think the Yankees are making a case where they're going to take one of those spots. Braves Padres on Friday. You have the Max Fried revenge game for him getting traded by the Padres,
which everyone remembers.
That was when he was in the minors, so I don't think he has any ill will towards that, and he won a World Series with the Braves. But it's Braves Padres anyway. Braves, they've been
every Dodgers Padres game is now the Trey Turner revenge game.
Yes. But yeah, the Braves have been underperforming this year, but obviously, defending champs versus the Padres, who are currently 8 games above 500 as of this recording. White Sox Yankees, I think, is always usually a fun matchup, and yeah, those are the series to watch. So we hope you enjoyed this one. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go and check out the YouTube channel, because we are back on video. We are moving pictures now. We aren't just a logo with a title on it. For the YouTube channel, we are talking pictures, as they used to call it in the old days.
So that's what Les Mann used to call it.
That's what Les Mann used to call it.
The moving pictures.
Great callback. So go to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. And follow us on social media. Follow me on Twitter, @Chris_Gianto. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram, @Daniel_Curran. And follow the show Instagram, @Above Replacement Radio, for all the show needs. And we hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you on a day next week. Maybe Monday, potentially.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball once again. See you then.
This conversation is over.